creating a simple Tic Tac Toe game in Python. Introduction. Displaying the game board. Taking turns and updating the board. Adding validation and error handling.
Improving the game with a
Conclusion. Welcome to this presentation on creating a simple tic-tac-toe game in Python. In this presentation, we will explore the steps involved in building a basic version of this classic game using Python programming language. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced programmer, you will find valuable insights and practical tips that will help you create your own version of this timeless game. Our objective today is to provide you with a step-by-step guide on how to build a simple tic-tac-toe game in Python. We will cover the essential concepts and techniques required to create the game, including displaying the game board, taking turns, updating the board, adding validation and error handling, and even enhancing the game with artificial intelligence. By the end of this presentation, you will have a solid understanding of how to create a basic version of tic-tac-toe game using Python. To display the game board, we can use a two-dimensional list in Python. This list will represent the 3x3 grid of the tic-tac-toe game. We can initialize this list with empty strings to represent the empty cells on the board. We can then print out the board using nested loops to iterate through each row and column of the list. For each cell, we can print out the value followed by a vertical line to separate it from the other cells in the same row. At the end of each row, we can print out a horizontal line to separate it from the next row. Now that we have the game board displayed, it's time to start playing. In order to play the game, players will need to take turns inputting the positions where they want to place their respective marks. This can be done using the input function in Python. Once the player inputs their desired position, we need to update the game board accordingly. This can be done by modifying the two-dimensional list that represents the game board. We also need to check if the game has been won or tied after each turn, which can be achieved using some simple logic and conditional statements. To prevent players from making invalid moves or crashing the game, it's important to add validation and error handling to your tic-tac-toe game. One way to do this is by checking if the player's move is within the range of the board and if the position is already occupied by another player. If the move is invalid, you can prompt a player to enter a valid move. In Python, you can use conditional statements and try, except blocks to handle errors and validate user input. For example, you can use a try, except block to catch any errors that may occur when converting the user's input to an integer or when accessing an out-of-bounds index in the board list. You can also use conditional statements to check if the player's move is valid before updating the board. To take the game to the next level, we can add artificial intelligence (AI) to make it more challenging and engaging. One way to do this is by implementing a simple AI algorithm that can play against the player and make strategic moves based on the current state of the game. In Python, we can use the minimax algorithm to create an unbeatable AI opponent for the tic-tac-toe game. This algorithm works by recursively exploring all possible moves and their outcomes and choosing the move that maximizes the AI's chances of winning or minimizing the player's chances of winning. By adding this feature, players can test their skills against a formidable opponent and enjoy a more exciting gameplay experience. In conclusion, we have learned how to create a simple tic-tac-toe game in Python. We started by displaying the game board using a two-dimensional list, then moved on to taking turns and updating the board. We also learned how to add validation and error handling to prevent players from making invalid moves or crashing the game. Finally, We discussed how to enhance the game with AI, implementing a simple algorithm to make the game more challenging. By following these steps, you too can create your own Tic Tac Toe game in Python. Not only is it a great way to practice your programming skills, but it's also a fun and engaging game to play with friends and family. So what are you waiting for? Start coding today and see what kind of game you can come up with.